If you want to find out who your real friends are, try fixing their brakes for free. Better yet, try catching your wife cheating with the local gym hero while your so-called buddies cover for her. That's when you learn what loyalty really means in this godforsaken town. My name is Tom Laine, and I've been fixing cars for 20 years. I own Laine's Auto Repair on the south side of Millbrook, a mid-sized city where everyone knows everyone else's business, or at least they think they do. Turns out, I was the last to know my own business. It started with small things. Cara, my wife of 12 years, began working late at the real estate office. New lingerie appeared in our laundry basket, stuff I'd never seen her wear for me. She'd giggle at her phone during dinner, then snap it shut when I looked over. "Work stuff," she'd say, flashing that smile that used to make my knees weak. Now, it just made my stomach turn. The real wake-up call came at our neighbor's barbecue last month. I was grabbing a beer from the cooler when I overheard Cara's friends, Mindy and Tessa, talking by the fence. "Pete's protein shakes aren't the only thing Cara's been sampling," Mindy whispered, then burst into giggles. "Girl, you're terrible," Tessa replied. "But seriously, how long can she keep double-dipping without Tom finding out?" I stood there like a statue, beer can sweating in my hand, as these women I'd known for years discussed my wife's affair like it was the latest episode of some reality show. Pete Haskins. Of course it was Pete damn Haskins. Pete owned FitLife Gym downtown and had about as much substance as a protein powder smoothie. All show, no substance. The kind of guy who posted shirtless selfies with motivational quotes about grinding and staying hungry. The irony wasn't lost on me. Apparently, he was staying hungry for my wife. I went home that night and really looked at Cara. She was beautiful, I'll give her that. Blonde hair always perfectly styled, green eyes that sparkled when she laughed. At 37, she could still turn heads. But when had she stopped turning toward me? "How was your day?" I asked over dinner. "Oh, you know, same old stuff. Showed the Peterson house again, had lunch with the girls." She twirled her pasta, not meeting my eyes. "What about you? Fix anything interesting?" "Just the usual broken things," I said, watching her carefully. "Some things can be fixed. Others, well, sometimes the damage goes too deep." She looked up then, and for a second, I saw something flicker across her face. Guilt? Fear? But then she smiled again. "You're so dramatic, Tom. It's just car repairs." "Right, just car repairs." That weekend, I found her planner open on the kitchen counter. Cara was obsessive about writing everything down: appointments, grocery lists, random thoughts. Usually, I respected her privacy, but that day, curiosity got the better of me. Sandwiched between dentist appointment and pick-up dry cleaning was a half-written note that sent a chill through me. I need more excitement in my life. Tom is stable and reliable, but when did stable become boring? I feel like I'm sleepwalking through my marriage. Maybe it's time to... The entry cut off there, but I didn't need to read the rest. I closed the planner and walked to my workshop in the garage. Surrounded by tools and engine parts, I tried to process what I'd learned. My wife was bored. My wife was cheating. My friends knew and hadn't said a word. For the first time in my adult life, I felt truly alone. That evening, Cara found me in the garage, tinkering with a carburetor that didn't need fixing. "Tom, we need to talk." I looked up from the workbench. She was wearing a sundress I'd bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago. Her hands were clasped in front of her, and she had that look, the same one she wore when she had to tell a client their dream house had fallen through. "I'm listening." "I've been thinking about us, about our marriage." She took a deep breath. "I think we should try something different." "Different how?" "What if we opened things up a little? You know, dated other people while staying together, like kept our marriage but explored other connections?" I stared at her for a long moment. The audacity was breathtaking. She wanted permission to legitimize what she was already doing while keeping me as her safety net. "That's an interesting idea," I said slowly. You've really thought this through. I have. I think it could be good for both of us. Bring some excitement back into our relationship. I set down my wrench and wiped my hands on a shop rag. You know what, Cara? You're absolutely right. That sounds like a great idea. The relief on her face was almost comical. Really? You're okay with this? More than okay. I think it's exactly what we need. She practically bounced on her toes. Oh, Tom, I'm so glad you understand. This is going to be so good for us. After she left, I sat in the silence of my garage and started planning. Cara thought she was playing chess while I was playing checkers. What she didn't realize was that I'd been watching the board a lot longer than she had. Time to show her what excitement really looked like. Creating a dating profile at 40 isn't something I ever thought I'd do, but life has a way of surprising you. I spent the next morning crafting what would become my secret weapon. Tom, 40, mechanic and small business owner. Can fix anything except my marriage, applications now being accepted. Love good food, bad movies, and people who say what they mean. Sarcasm is my second language. Honesty is my first. Looking for someone who appreciates both. I uploaded a photo Kev had taken of me at the shop, sleeves rolled up, genuine smile, looking competent and confident. Within an hour of going live, my phone started buzzing. Message after message poured in. Apparently, honesty and humor were in short supply in the online dating world. Who knew? The first woman I connected with was Lisa, a nurse at Millbrook General. Brunette, quick wit, and a smile that could light up a room. Our first date was coffee at Brewster's downtown. So, she said, stirring her latte, your profile mentioned a marriage that needs fixing. Want to talk about it? My wife decided we should see other people while staying married. Something about needing excitement. Lisa raised an eyebrow. And you agreed to this? Seemed fair, though I suspect she had a head start on the whole arrangement. Ah, one of those situations. Lisa leaned back in her chair. Well, her loss is my gain. You seem like the kind of guy who actually shows up when he says he will. Revolutionary concept, I know. We talked for 2 hours. Lisa was smart, funny, and refreshingly direct. When she suggested dinner for our next date, I didn't hesitate to say yes. That evening, I posted a photo from our coffee date on social media. Nothing inappropriate, just 2 people enjoying conversation and laughing. The caption read, "Great company makes everything better." Cara saw it within an hour. "How was your day?" she asked when I got home, her voice carefully casual. "Excellent. Had coffee with a lovely woman named Lisa. She's a nurse. Very interesting." Cara's smile flickered like a faulty light bulb. "That's nice. I'm glad you're putting yourself out there." "Thanks. How about you? Any exciting dates lined up?" "Oh, I'm taking it slow. Figuring things out." Right. Taking it slow. I wondered if Pete knew he was part of her slow approach. My second date was with Jess, a bartender at Murphy's Pub. Red hair, green eyes, and the kind of laugh that made you want to hear it again. She was working the night I stopped by for a beer, and we struck up a conversation that lasted until closing time. "You're not like most guys who come in here," she said, wiping down glasses. "How so?" "You actually listen when people talk, and you're funny without trying too hard." "My wife would disagree with you on both counts." "Then your wife's an idiot." I liked Jess immediately. Our first official date was dinner at Romano's, a little Italian place on the east side. Jess wore a black dress that made her hair look like fire, and she had opinions about everything: politics, movies, the proper way to make a martini. "So what's your story?" she asked over pasta. "And don't give me the sanitized version." I told her about Cara, about the open marriage proposal, about feeling like a stranger in my own life. "Let me get this straight," Jess said, twirling linguine around her fork. "Your wife wants to have her cake and eat it too, and you're supposed to be grateful for the crumbs?" "That's one way to put it." "Here's another way. She's a selfish bastard who doesn't deserve you." I nearly choked on my wine. Tell me how you really feel. Life's too short for bullshit, Tom. You seem like a good guy. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. After dinner, we walked along the riverfront. Jess slipped her hand into mine, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. I posted another photo that night, Jess and me by the river, both of us laughing at something she'd said about the ducks. The caption, "Sometimes the best conversations happen after midnight." This time, Cara was waiting up when I got home. "You're making quite the splash on social media," she said from the couch. "Am I? I hadn't noticed." "Tom, people are starting to talk." "About what?" "About us. About this arrangement. Mindy called earlier. She said people are asking questions." I sat down across from her. "What kind of questions?" "About whether we're getting divorced. About whether you're moving on." "Are you worried about what people think, Cara?" She twisted her wedding ring, a nervous habit I'd noticed years ago. "I just don't want people getting the wrong idea." "What would be the right idea?" "That we're working on our marriage. That this is temporary." "Is it temporary?" She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't seen in months. Uncertainty. "I don't know," she whispered. "Well, when you figure it out, let me know. In the meantime, I'm going to keep working on myself." The next week brought more dates, more photos, more buzz around town. Word spread quickly in Millbrook. Tom Laine was back on the market, and apparently he was quite the catch. Cara's friends started treating her differently. I noticed it at the grocery store when I ran into Tessa. Instead of her usual bubbly greeting, she gave me a tight smile and hurried past. The power dynamic was shifting, and everyone could feel it. But the real game changer came on a Thursday evening. I was at the shop, closing up for the day, when my phone buzzed with a message from someone I didn't recognize. "Hi, Tom. My name is Dasha. I'm friends with Cara on social media. I think there are some things you should know about your wife and Pete Haskins. Can we talk?" I stared at the message for a long moment. This was it. The moment where I could choose to stay ignorant or face the truth head on. I typed back, "I'm listening." What Dasha told me over the next hour changed everything. Dasha Martinez turned out to be Cara's newest friend, a social media influencer with perfectly contoured cheekbones and a talent for collecting secrets. We met at a coffee shop across town, somewhere Cara would never think to look. "I want you to know I'm not doing this to be malicious," Dasha said, sliding a manila envelope across the table. "But what's happening to you isn't right." Inside the envelope were printouts of text messages, screenshots of social media posts, and photos that made my stomach turn. Cara and Pete at restaurants I'd never been to. Cara and Pete at his gym after hours. Cara and Pete in what looked like a hotel room. "How long?" I asked. "Based on what I could find? At least 6 months. Probably longer." 6 months. While I was working late to save money for our anniversary trip. While I was bringing her coffee in bed on Sunday mornings. While I was being the reliable, stable husband she apparently found so boring. "There's more," Dasha said gently. "The open marriage thing? That wasn't her idea. It was Pete's. He wanted to legitimize what they were doing without the mess of a divorce. And my friends knew? Your friends, her friends, half the gym members, probably your mailman. Tom, I'm sorry, but you were the only one in the dark." I studied the photos again. In one, Cara was wearing the earrings I'd given her for Christmas. In another, she was laughing at something Pete was saying, her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. "Why are you showing me this?" Dasha leaned forward. "Because Pete Haskins is a piece of shit who treats women like trophies. And because your wife is about to throw away a good man for Instagram likes and gym selfies. Someone needed to tell you the truth." I gathered up the photos and documents. "Thank you. What are you going to do?" "I haven't decided yet." That was a lie. I knew exactly what I was going to do. The next morning, I called in sick to work, something I hadn't done in 3 years. Instead of opening the shop, I drove to FitLife Gym. Pete's white BMW was parked in the owner's spot, vanity plate reading FitLife 1. I walked into the gym like I owned the place. The smell of sweat and protein powder hit me immediately. Pete was by the free weights, spotting some college kid on bench press. "Tom!" Pete's voice was just a little too loud, a little too enthusiastic. "What brings you here, buddy?" Buddy. Right. "Thinking about getting back in shape," I said. "Cara mentioned you run a good operation here." "She did, huh?" Something flickered across Pete's face. "That's great, man. We should get you set up with a trainer, get you on a program. Actually, I was hoping you could show me around personally. Cara speaks so highly of you." For the next 30 minutes, Pete gave me the grand tour, his chest puffed out like a peacock. He showed me the cardio equipment, the weight room, his office with its wall of certificates and photos. "This is my pride and joy," he said, gesturing around the gym. "Built it from nothing. Takes dedication, you know. Commitment. I bet. Must be hard to maintain that level of commitment in all areas of your life." Pete's smile faltered slightly. "What do you mean?" "Oh, nothing. Just that it's impressive when someone can stay focused on what really matters." I left him standing there, confusion written across his face. That afternoon, I put phase 1 of my plan into action. I called Janet Morrison from the Millbrook Gazette. Janet had been trying to get me to participate in her local business spotlight series for months. Suddenly, I was very interested. "I'd love to do the feature," I told her. "But could we make it more interesting? Maybe contrast different types of local businesses? I was thinking we could do it at FitLife Gym, blue-collar meets fitness industry." Janet loved the idea. We scheduled the interview for Friday afternoon. Friday came, and I showed up at FitLife with Janet and her photographer. I also brought Lisa, who I'd mentioned was interested in joining a gym. Pete was in his element, flexing for the camera and spouting motivational nonsense about maximizing human potential. Janet ate it up, scribbling notes while Pete demonstrated various exercises. "Now, Pete," I said during a lull in the interview, "I hear you're really good with your hands. All that personal training must require a very personal touch." Pete preened. "That's right. I believe in hands-on instruction, really getting to know my clients' needs. I bet you do. Must be rewarding, helping people discover new sides of themselves." Lisa caught my eye and smirked. She was enjoying this as much as I was. "Tom here is thinking about joining," Pete told Janet. "His wife Cara is already a member. She's been working out here for months." "Has she now?" Janet made a note. "That's wonderful when couples support each other's fitness journeys." "Oh, Cara's very supportive," I said. "She's always encouraging me to try new things. In fact, she suggested I spend more time here, get to know Pete better." The interview wrapped up with Pete posing for photos, his muscles gleaming under the gym lights. As we were leaving, I shook his hand. "Thanks for this, Pete. I'm looking forward to seeing how everything develops." The article ran the following Tuesday, complete with photos of Pete flexing and quotes about his hands-on approach to fitness. I shared it on social media with the caption, "Great to learn more about local businesses and the people who run them. Some are more hands-on than others." The post got more engagement than anything I'd ever shared. Comments poured in, some from people who clearly got the subtext. "Sounds like Pete really knows how to work with his clients," wrote someone I didn't recognize. "I bet he gives very personal attention," added another. Cara saw the post, of course. That evening, she was quiet during dinner, picking at her food. "The article about Pete's gym was interesting," she finally said. "Wasn't it? Janet did a great job capturing his enthusiasm." "Tom, what are you doing?" I looked up from my plate. "Eating dinner. Why?" "You know what I mean. The gym, the article, these comments on social media. I'm exploring new interests. Isn't that what this whole arrangement is about?" She stared at me for a long moment. I think maybe we should talk about ending this experiment. Ending it? But Cara, I'm just getting started. That night, as I lay in our guest bedroom, I'd moved there weeks ago, claiming I didn't want to disturb her sleep. I smiled in the darkness. Phase 1 was complete. Time for Phase 2. The next morning I woke up with the kind of clarity that comes from finally understanding the rules of the game. For months, I'd been playing defense while Cara and Pete ran up the score. Time to change tactics. I started with something simple but effective. Pete's BMW was his pride and joy, detailed weekly, parked in the same spot every day. On Wednesday night, after the gym closed, I paid it a little visit. I didn't damage anything. Didn't key the paint or slash the tires. Instead, I carefully placed a small piece of fish, a sardine from my lunch, under the driver's side door handle. Then another under the passenger handle, and one more tucked discreetly behind the rear license plate. By Friday, in the July heat, Pete's car smelled like a fishing boat that had been left in the sun for a week. I watched from across the street as he stood next to his BMW, face scrunched up in confusion and disgust, trying to figure out where the smell was coming from. He had the car detailed twice that weekend. The smell persisted. Phase 2, Part 1. Complete. Part 2 required a bit more creativity. I spent Saturday morning at Kinko's, designing and printing a professional-looking for sale sign. Bold red letters on white background. Fit Life Gym for sale. Owner relocating due to performance issues. Serious inquiries only. Sunday morning, before dawn, I planted the sign in front of the gym. By the time Pete arrived to open up, a small crowd had gathered. I watched from my truck as he ripped down the sign, his face red with embarrassment and rage. But the damage was done. Photos of the sign were already circulating on social media. Performance issues became the joke of the week. The real masterpiece, though, happened at Mindy's birthday party that Saturday night. Cara had been distant all week, clearly sensing that something was shifting but not sure what. She'd tried twice to have the talk about ending our arrangement, but I kept deflecting. Let's see how things play out, I'd say. No need to rush into anything. The party was at Mindy's house, a backyard barbecue with most of our social circle in attendance. Cara arrived with Pete, not even trying to hide it anymore. I came alone, carrying a bottle of wine and a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Tom! Mindy's husband Dave grabbed me in a bear hug. Good to see you, man. How are you holding up? Interesting phrasing. Holding up just fine, Dave. Better than ever, actually. I made the rounds, chatting with people I'd known for years. The conversations were awkward. Everyone knew about Cara and Pete. Everyone knew about our arrangement, and nobody knew quite what to say to me. Perfect. I positioned myself near the beer cooler where I could observe the party dynamics. Cara and Pete were holding court by the pool, surrounded by her usual crew. Pete was telling some story that involved a lot of gesturing and flexing. Cara was laughing, but it looked forced. Around 9 o'clock, I made my move. I approached Dave, who was manning the grill, and struck up a conversation about his recent fishing trip. Loud enough for others to hear, casual enough to seem natural. Speaking of fishing, I said, you ever notice how some people like to cast multiple lines at once? You know, hedge their bets? Dave looked confused. I guess, though that seems like it could get complicated. Oh, it definitely can, especially when one of the fish doesn't know there are other hooks in the water. A few people had drifted closer, drawn by the conversation. I had their attention now. Take my situation, for example, I continued, taking a swig of beer. Cara and I decided to open up our marriage, see other people, but it turns out she'd already been seeing Pete for months before we had that conversation. The silence that followed was deafening. You could practically hear the mental gears turning as people processed what I'd just said. Tom, Dave said quietly, maybe we should... Oh, it's fine, I said, waving him off. I'm not upset about it. Hell, I'm grateful. Cara did me a favor by showing me what I was missing. Turns out, there are a lot of women out there who appreciate honesty. I looked directly at Mindy, who had gone pale. You knew, didn't you, Mindy? About Cara and Pete, before the open marriage conversation? Mindy opened and closed her mouth like a fish. Tom, we didn't know how to… It's okay, really. Friends look out for each other, right? Even when it's complicated. The party had gone quiet. Everyone was staring at us. Across the yard, Cara had noticed the commotion. She was walking over, Pete trailing behind her. What's going on? She asked, her voice tight. Just sharing some insights about fishing, I said, and friendship, and the importance of honesty in relationships. Cara's face went white. Tom, don't. Don't what? Don't tell people that you were with Pete for months before you asked for an open marriage. Don't mention that our friends all knew and said nothing. Don't share the fact that I've been the punchline to a joke I didn't even know was being told. Pete stepped forward, his chest puffed out. Hey man, that's enough. I turned to face him, and something in my expression made him take a step back. Is it enough, Pete? Because I'm just getting warmed up. The party was completely silent now. Even the music seemed to have stopped. You want to know what's funny? I continued, my voice conversational. I actually appreciate what you two did. You showed me who I was married to. You showed me who my real friends are. And you showed me that I'm worth a hell of a lot more than I was settling for. I set down my beer and headed for the gate. Thanks for the party, Mindy. Dave, good luck with the fishing. As I reached my truck, I heard Cara calling my name. I didn't turn around. The fallout was immediate and devastating. By Sunday afternoon, my phone was buzzing with messages. Some were supportive, others were angry, most were just curious. The story had spread through our social circle like wildfire. Cara came home Sunday evening, her eyes red from crying. Tom, we need to talk. Do we? What you did last night, that was cruel. I looked up from the book I was reading. Was it? Or was it just honest? You humiliated me, in front of everyone. No, Cara, you humiliated yourself. I just stopped pretending not to notice. She sat down across from me, and for a moment, she looked like the woman I'd fallen in love with 15 years ago. Vulnerable. Real. I never meant for it to happen like this. How did you mean for it to happen? I don't know. I was confused, unhappy. Pete made me feel alive again. And I made you feel lifeless? She flinched. Not lifeless, just comfortable, safe, dull. I see. So you decided to fix that by lying to me for months, enlisting our friends as accomplices, and then asking for permission to do what you were already doing. It wasn't like that. It was exactly like that. We sat in silence for a long moment. What happens now? She asked. I closed my book and looked at her, really looked at her. Now you get to find out what excitement without a safety net feels like. What does that mean? It means I'm done being your backup plan, Cara. You want Pete? You can have him. But you can't have both of us. She started crying then, real tears this time. Tom, please, can't we work this out? We could have. 6 months ago, before you decided I wasn't enough, before you made me the fool in my own marriage. I stood up and headed for the door. Where are you going? Out. Don't wait up. As I drove away from the house, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Freedom. The weight of pretending, of being the understanding husband, of playing along with their game. It was gone. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. The charity gala for the Millbrook Children's Hospital was the social event of the year. Black tie, silent auction, all the local big shots pretending to care about sick kids while networking and showing off their wealth. Normally, I'd avoid it like the plague. This year, I bought a table. The invitation arrived on elegant cardstock. Mr. Thomas Laine and guests cordially invited. I stared at that word, guests, plural, and smiled. I called Lisa first. A charity gala? That doesn't seem like your scene, Tom. It's not, but I have my reasons. Would you be my date? Fair warning, it might get interesting. Lisa was quiet for a moment. Interesting how? Let's just say some people from my past will be there, and I'd like to make a good impression. Are you using me to make your wife jealous? I appreciated her directness. Partially, but also because I genuinely enjoy your company, and I think you'd have fun watching me navigate high society. She laughed. Okay, I'm in, but you're buying my dress. Next, I called Jess. 2 dates to the same event? She said when I explained the situation. That's either very confident or very stupid. Probably both. But here's the thing. I'm not trying to deceive anyone. You'll both know about each other. Hell, you can sit together if you want. I just want to show up with 2 intelligent, beautiful women and watch certain people lose their minds. You know what? I like it. Count me in. The week leading up to the gala was a masterclass in psychological warfare. I posted photos of Lisa and me shopping for her dress. Then photos of Jess and me getting fitted for my tux. Then a group photo of all 3 of us at dinner, laughing over wine and planning our strategy for the evening. The comments on social media were priceless. Tom Laine living his best life. Some guys have all the luck. Meanwhile, Cara's sitting at home wondering what happened. That last one stung because it was probably true. Cara had been trying to talk to me all week, but I'd been conveniently busy, working late, out with friends, generally unavailable for the heart-to-heart she seemed desperate to have. Saturday evening arrived and I picked up my dates. Lisa wore a stunning blue dress that matched her eyes. Jess had chosen emerald green that set off her red hair beautifully. Both women looked like they belonged on magazine covers. You clean up nice, Lisa said, adjusting my bow tie. Thanks. You both look incredible. This is going to be fun, Jess said, grinning. I've never been anyone's revenge date before. We arrived at the Millbrook Grand Hotel fashionably late. The ballroom was already full of Millbrook's elite, all dressed to the nines and clutching champagne glasses. I walked in with Lisa on my right arm and Jess on my left, and the effect was immediate. Conversations stopped, heads turned. I heard my name whispered more than once. Tom Laine, you magnificent bastard, someone said behind me. I turned to see Mike Chen, a local businessman I'd known for years. Mike, good to see you. I have to ask, how the hell did you manage this? He gestured at Lisa and Jess. Clean living and good karma, I said, straight-faced. We made our way to our table, strategically positioned with a clear view of the room. Cara and Pete were already there, sitting with Mindy and her husband Dave. Cara wore a red dress I'd never seen before, and she looked beautiful. She also looked miserable. Pete, on the other hand, was in his element. Tuxedo straining against his muscles, hair slicked back, working the room like he owned it. Until he saw me. His face went through several interesting expressions in rapid succession. Surprise, confusion, anger, and finally something that might have been fear. Showtime, Jess murmured. The evening proceeded like a carefully choreographed dance. I introduced Lisa and Jess to everyone we met, making no attempt to hide the fact that I was there with both of them. The women played their parts perfectly, charming, witty, and clearly enjoying themselves. Tom's been telling us about Millbrook, Lisa told the mayor's wife. Such a close-knit community. Everyone really looks out for each other. Oh, yes, the woman replied. We're all very supportive of one another. The subtext was delicious. During the silent auction, I bid aggressively on several items, winning a weekend getaway to a bed and breakfast and a dinner for 4 at the city's best restaurant. Planning some romantic weekends? Someone asked. You could say that, I replied, winking at both my dates. But the real show began during the speeches. Pete had somehow maneuvered himself onto the program, something about Fit Life Gym's commitment to community health. As he approached the podium, I excused myself and headed to the bar. "Whiskey neat," I told the bartender. "And could you do me a favor?" I slipped him a 20 and a small packet I'd prepared earlier. "My friend up there is about to give a speech. He's nervous, keeps asking for mints. Could you send this up to him? Tell him it's from a well-wisher." The bartender glanced at the packet. Breath mints, completely harmless, except for one small detail. I'd replaced half of them with mints that would turn his teeth blue. Temporary, harmless, but highly visible under the stage lights. "No problem, sir." I returned to my table just as Pete began his speech. He was in full motivational speaker mode, talking about pushing limits and achieving peak performance. Halfway through, the bartender appeared at his elbow with the mints. Pete, ever the showman, popped one in his mouth and continued speaking. Then another. By the time he hit his stride, talking about the importance of integrity in all aspects of life, his teeth were a lovely shade of blue. The audience began to notice. Whispers started. Someone giggled. Pete, oblivious, kept talking about maintaining high standards and being true to your commitments. It was beautiful. Lisa leaned over. "Did you do that?" "I have no idea what you're talking about." By the time Pete finished his speech, the entire room was buzzing. He walked off stage to polite applause and confused stares, still unaware of his blue-toothed grin. But I wasn't done yet. During the dinner course, my phone buzzed with a message from Dasha. "Package delivered. Check your email." I opened my email to find a link to a file-sharing site. Dasha had been busy. Very busy. The file contained screenshots of text messages between Cara and Pete, dating back 8 months, explicit photos they'd sent each other, even a video of them together in what looked like Pete's office at the gym. I forwarded the link to an anonymous email account I'd set up, then sent it to the event organizer with a simple message. Thought the crowd might enjoy some additional entertainment. 5 minutes later, the lights dimmed, and a slideshow began on the large screens around the room. It was supposed to be photos from previous charity events, heartwarming images of the hospital and the children it served. Instead, it was Cara and Pete's greatest hits. The reaction was immediate and explosive. Gasps, shouts, people pulling out their phones to record the chaos. Cara screamed and tried to hide under the table. Pete, his blue teeth gleaming, rushed toward the AV booth, but the damage was done. In 30 seconds, their affair had been broadcast to 300 of Millbrook's most prominent citizens. I stood up calmly and helped Lisa and Jess to their feet. "Ladies, I think our work here is done." As we walked toward the exit, I felt a hand grab my arm. It was Cara, tears streaming down her face. "Tom, please, stop this. I'm begging you." I looked at her for a long moment. She was beautiful, even crying, even desperate, even broken. "You said you wanted excitement, Cara. How's this working out for you?" She collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Pete was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding in the bathroom, trying to scrub the blue off his teeth. We left them there, in the wreckage of their own making. Outside, Lisa and Jess were quiet until we reached the car. "That was..." Lisa started. "Brutal," Jess finished. "Too brutal?" I asked. They looked at each other, then at me. "No," they said in unison. As we drove away from the hotel, I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. The trap had worked perfectly. Cara and Pete were finished, socially and professionally. Their reputations were in ruins. But I wasn't finished yet. There was still one more act to this play. The aftermath of the gala was swift and merciless. By Sunday morning, the video of Pete's Bluetoothed speech and the slideshow disaster had gone viral. Bluetooth Pete was trending on social media, and the screenshots of Cara's texts were being shared across every gossip group in town. Pete's gym was finished. Members canceled their memberships in droves. His business partner, Marv, issued a statement distancing himself from Pete and announcing the gym's closure pending restructuring. Cara's real estate career imploded just as quickly. Clients dropped her, colleagues avoided her, and her broker called an emergency meeting that everyone knew would end with her resignation. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. Monday morning, I was at the shop early, trying to lose myself in the familiar rhythm of work. Kev arrived around 8, coffee in hand and questions in his eyes. "So," he said, settling onto his usual stool. "Hell of a weekend." "You could say that. The whole town's talking about it. Pete's gym is done. Cara's career is toast. You got your revenge." I looked up from the engine I was working on. "Did I? Didn't you?" Before I could answer, the shop door chimed. Pete walked in and he looked like hell, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt and jeans. The confident gym owner was gone, replaced by a broken man. "Tom, we need to talk." Kev started to get up, but I waved him back down. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of Kev." Pete looked around the shop, at the tools, the cars, the honest work that surrounded us. "I messed up, I know that. But what you did, that was catastrophic." "Was it? Or was it just the truth?" "You destroyed us. Both of us. Cara's career is over. My business is gone. We're both ruined." I set down my wrench and faced him. "You ruined yourselves. I just stopped pretending not to notice." "Come on, man. The blue teeth thing, the slideshow, that was personal." "You're right. It was personal. You slept with my wife and made me look like a fool. How exactly did you think I was going to react?" Pete ran his hands through his hair. "I never meant for it to happen. It just did." "Bullshit. You pursued her. You seduced her. You convinced her to ask for an open marriage so you could legitimize what you were already doing. Don't stand there and pretend this was some accident." "Okay, yes. I wanted her. But she wanted me too. She was unhappy, Tom. She felt trapped." "So you helped her cheat instead of suggesting she get a divorce?" Pete was quiet for a moment. I thought maybe we could all just figure it out. Like adults." "Adults tell the truth, Pete. Adults don't sneak around for months, lying to everyone." "So what now? You've destroyed us both. Are you happy?" I studied his face. There was genuine pain there, genuine regret, but also something else, a kind of entitled confusion, like he couldn't quite understand how his actions had led to consequences. "You know what, Pete? I'm not happy. I thought I would be, but I'm not. You want to know why?" He nodded. "Because destroying you didn't fix what you broke. My marriage is still over. My trust is still shattered. My life is still turned upside down. All I did was make sure you couldn't do it to anyone else." "Tom, get out of my shop, Pete, and stay away from me." After he left, Kev was quiet for a long time. "You okay, boss?" "No, but I will be." That afternoon, Cara showed up. She looked as bad as Pete, maybe worse. Her perfect hair was unwashed, her makeup smeared, her clothes wrinkled. She'd been crying. "Tom, please, can we talk?" "There's nothing left to say, Cara." "There's everything left to say. I love you. I made a mistake, a huge, terrible mistake, but I love you." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You love me? You've got a funny way of showing it." I was confused, scared. I felt like I was disappearing, like I was just Tom's wife and nothing else. Pete made me feel seen. "So you decided to humiliate me instead of talking to me?" "I tried to talk to you, but you were always working, always tired, always focused on the business." "So this is my fault?" "No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying we both made mistakes. We both let our marriage drift. But we can fix this. We can start over." I stared at her. This woman I'd loved for 12 years and felt nothing but sadness. "Cara, do you know what the worst part is? It's not the cheating. It's not even the lying. It's that you made me complicit in my own humiliation. You asked for an open marriage knowing you were already having an affair, and let me think I was being understanding and mature. Tom, you turned me into a fool, Cara, and then you let me stay a fool for months while everyone else knew the truth. She was crying again, ugly tears that streaked her makeup. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What can I do? How can I fix this? You can't. Some things, once broken, can't be repaired. They can only be replaced. So that's it? 12 years of marriage and you're just done? No, Cara, you were done months ago. I'm just catching up. I walked to my desk and pulled out a manila envelope. Divorce papers. I'm keeping the house and the business. You can have everything else. She took the envelope with shaking hands. Tom, please, don't do this. It's already done. After she left, I sat in the quiet of my shop and tried to figure out what came next. The revenge was complete. Cara and Pete were ruined. Justice, of a sort, had been served. But justice, I was learning, was cold comfort. My phone buzzed with a text from Lisa. Saw the news about Pete's gym. You okay? I started to type back, then stopped. Was I okay? I wasn't sure. Another text, this one from Jess. Drinks tonight? You look like you could use a friend. A friend. That sounded good. But first, there was one more thing I needed to do. I drove to the cemetery where my parents were buried. It was quiet there, peaceful. I sat on the bench near their headstones and tried to make sense of everything that had happened. I don't know if I did the right thing, I said out loud, feeling only slightly foolish. I wanted them to pay for what they did to me, and they did pay. But I don't feel better. I just feel empty. The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, I could almost hear my father's voice. Son, sometimes doing the right thing doesn't make you feel good. It just makes you right. Maybe that was enough. Maybe being right was all I could ask for. As I drove home, I passed Pete's gym. There was a closed sign on the door and newspaper taped over the windows. His white BMW was parked out front, and Pete was loading boxes into the trunk. He looked up as I drove by, and our eyes met for a moment. I didn't stop. There was nothing left to say. At home, I found Cara's things were gone. She'd taken her clothes, her books, her pictures. The house felt bigger somehow, echoing with 12 years of memories. I poured myself a whiskey and sat in my living room, looking at the empty spaces where her life used to be. Tomorrow, I'd start figuring out what came next. Tonight, I'd just sit with the silence and the knowledge that I'd won a war that nobody really wins. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Jess. Changed my mind about drinks, coming over with pizza and beer. Don't argue. I smiled for the first time in days. Maybe winning wasn't the point. Maybe surviving was enough. 20 minutes later, Jess showed up with Lisa in tow, arms full of food and alcohol, and the kind of friendship I'd forgotten existed. So, Lisa said, settling onto my couch, what's next for Tom Laine? I looked at these two women who barely knew me, but had stood by me through the worst few months of my life. I have absolutely no idea. Good, Jess said, opening a beer. The best adventures start that way. Outside, it started to rain. Inside, for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was home. The war was over. I'd won, though victory tasted different than I'd expected. Cara and Pete had paid the price for their betrayal, and I'd learned who I really was when everything was stripped away. Sometimes the last laugh isn't about joy. Sometimes it's just about being the one left standing. And I was still standing.